then have to defend.
Further discussion.
So can we clarify, does this mean that they have an association with the city? And if we vote for this that says that we want somebody who's not associated with the city or the police or any of those things that were mentioned, that we can't have somebody like MTAS or someone affiliated to that level?
My motion is that we select someone with absolutely no affiliation with Oak Ridge City or Police Department. If we have to go out of state to get somebody, so be it.
It would be my opinion, Mr. Callison, that based on that description and explanation of the motion, that it would disqualify under Ms. Vaughn's motion, MTAS.
So in the newspaper, they can say that we allowed somebody who was associated with the city of Oak Ridge or some other obscure relationship. That's what we should see in the headlines tomorrow morning, I guess. Well, it takes a day to publish that. Well, if we want MTAS to do a potential review for us.
Quit saying we don't want that.
Oh, excuse me.
Yeah.
If we vote to have MTAS do that, but the only way we could do that would be to deny your motion that says that we don't want, we would allow someone who is affiliated with the city to participate. Well, you're playing with words, I'm just saying.
Ms. Smith?
Now, I'm puzzling over this piece of paper that you passed to us. It turns out to be a page from the Municipal Technical Advisory Service, that's MTAS website, that describes the Tennessee Municipal League's risk management pool. At the top of the page it says Municipal Technical Advisory Service in cooperation with the Tennessee Municipal League. That's kind of a website banner. The same banner appears at the bottom of the page. The page itself basically is an information, it looks to me like an information item explaining the existence of the Tennessee Municipal League's liability insurance pool. It looks to me like it's just a website providing information to Tennessee municipalities about a service that's available to them if they choose to join the Tennessee Municipal League. I see nothing here other than cooperative information providing by MTAS, which is an entity of our Tennessee state government and the University of Tennessee. And by the notion that our involvement with these organizations gives them some sort of a conflict of interest with us, I'd have to say that anybody in the state of Tennessee or the United States has a conflict of interest with us because we're all part of the same entity somewhere along the line. We do cooperate with other governments, and we pay tax. I pay taxes to the state of Tennessee. We all do. We're all in this together, folks. At some point, we've got to decide who's sufficiently independent to provide us with the kind of independent review that our police people truly deserve, and not play games with trying to identify conflicts of interest that may not exist.
Ms. Vaughn?
Yes, to be clear, this is one of many web pages that have this banner across it, and if you're denying that MTAS and TML don't somehow cooperate and work together, then perhaps you don't understand their relationship. I'm not claiming to fully understand their relationship. Mr. Behan's up here, I'm pretty sure you sat on the TML board.
I was president.
You were the president of TML, okay. So TML is subsidized, paid for indirectly through local taxpayer funds, and part of the services that they provide are legal defense on behalf of the city. If we go forward with one of their cohorts, MTAS, as the investigator, and the investigator found, let's say that, try to make it as neutral as we can, that they found something wrong that was cause for litigation, then TML would be obligated to defend the city against those particular allegations. MTAS, TML, very closely associated. TML provides legal services paid for by the taxpayer, and in many cases in defense against any allegations by taxpayers. And in this case, TML could in fact be defending the city against allegations that come out of the MTAS-driven investigation. As far as playing with words, Mr. Callison, let me just read it for you one more time. There's nothing nefarious in what I'm trying to say. My motion is to require that the investigator be someone with no affiliation or ties to the Oak Ridge Police Department or the city of Oak Ridge, period.
Mr. Hensley?
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Smith, is that this is grasping at straws. And your questioning of the word "we" is one of the deepest issues that I have with the approach that this investigation has taken. When I lose a vote up here, if I have a suggestion and I lose a vote, it's still "we decided." And I'll do that until I'm no longer on council, and I've done it since the day I got on council. We are not maverick individuals out there trying to justify maverick positions and then getting mad and taking our ball and going home. It's always a "we." It'll be a "we" if I lose the vote. It'll be a "we" if I win the vote.
Ms. Bobby?
Yeah. We decided to move forward with an investigation. We decided that we would do the best we could to make sure it was unbiased and fair, and that it addressed the concerns that were brought to us. We agreed via a resolution to hire someone to conduct the investigation. Everything you've said up until this point indicates that you do not support this investigation or anything that resembles a fairness in the process of going about it.
Yes.
Mr. Behan?
Thank you, Mayor. One last time to that. The resolution says not investigation. The resolution says review. And that's exactly what's in our packet.
Mr. Behan?
Yeah, my name is Tom Behan. I live at 113 Liberty Court in Oak Ridge, Tennessee. And as has been pointed out by Councilwoman Bond, I was the president of the Tennessee Municipal League and served on that board until last year. Just for clarification, there's no direct relationship between MTASC and TML. TML also has a separate insurance division which covers any suits that are brought against elected officials. In fact, that is going on now for some of us in a different venue. And the TML has a separate operation, but MTASC has no legal agreement with TML, and I could not see them as being part. Cooperation means that they're a resource to cities, as been pointed out here, and therefore they do come to the meeting, so they are available, but that is the extent of the arrangement with them. Thank you.
My name is Chuck Eagle. I live at 101 West Melbourne. The Municipal Technical Advisory Services, which you guys have been referring to as MTAS, was chartered by the State General Assembly to be a uniquely well-qualified, neutral party to resolve all city conflicts within the state. To assume that they have a conflict of interest in any shape or form means that Trina Bond thinks the Tennessee General Assembly is plotting against the city of Oak Ridge.
William King, 410 Sherwood Estates Circle, President of the Knox County Chapter of the Southern States Police Benevolent Association.
Knoxville or Knox County?
Knox County, but
your address, are you in Knoxville or Knox?
No, I'm sorry, it's in Anderson County.
Okay.
It's just outside the city of Oak Ridge.
Okay.
I would just like to point out that with regard to the appointment or the resolution put forth by Mr. Callison to select Rex Barton of MTAS, since we are talking about MTAS, there are...
That was not foolish. We're on this phone.
Fair enough. I will talk about our motion then. When we talk about persons that have a connection to the city of Oak Ridge, or connections to the chiefs of police, I think you have to look at the fact that there may be people that have connections to the chief of police through the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police. And so it would be, and I think it is I think it's unreasonable to think that somebody who has a direct connection to the Tennessee Association of Chiefs of Police, which your police chief sits on their board, to think that that person does not have, or that organization does not have a direct connection to this city that could cause some bias to creep up during this investigation. I just think that's unreasonable, Mr. Callison. I think it's totally unreasonable. This board should consider Ms. Bond's amendment to this particular resolution and should accept that. There should be no questions when this investigation is finished about the thoroughness of it and about whether or not there was any bias whatsoever. The final word of the investigation should be the final word. If you pick somebody that's not biased and has no direct connections or indirect connections to the chief of police, then I think you'll get that. If you don't, then this will continue on.
Mr. Hensley?
Sorry.
Mr. Hope?
It continues to come up throughout all of our conversations that we single out one individual of the police department. Our resolution stated that we were to investigate, review the Oak Ridge Police Department, low morale, high turnover rate, and administrative policies. We continue to single out an individual within the department. I think it states in our resolution that we're investigating the department as a whole. If the process of the investigation should determine individuals need to have further review or investigation, then we should allow whoever we pick to do that investigation to go through that process and bring that back to council and or to the city manager for further investigation.
Mr. Bailey?
Matt Bailey, 17 Riverside Drive, Oak Ridge. So I called MTAS today and asked them if they had any competitors that they would be willing to speak of. And the young lady said, and I explained to her I'm just a citizen, not a member of the city council, and she explained to me that there are all kinds of people who can do engineering, architecture, or whatever, but police and fire are a little bit more difficult. So I went online and Googled trying to find somebody who could do this investigation. Review, whatever it is you want to call it. And the top 3 or 4 people that came up were all out-of-state folks who really didn't seem to be qualified. My concern is, I agree with you, every penny counts, and I don't like the idea of giving a blank check to a bunch of guys from Maine to come down here and do this, and Lord knows how many days, weeks, and whatever it will take for them to steal our money and come up with some kind of review. I think it's a shock. I wouldn't give a blank check to a contractor, much less a bunch of guys from out of state to come do a review. Additionally, if you try to find somebody else, it's going to take 30 days for council for the staff to prepare the paperwork, 30 days to send it out, 30 days to review it. By that time, it was the 4th of July. We may not end this thing until September if you do this. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
I'm first ruined and I still live at 1074 West Avenue Drive. We're not coming home on time. But, you know, this study should be broad-based. It should cover all aspects to include administration, morale, and the turnover. It should primarily look to the future of Oak Ridge, except where you need to go back and answer some questions that have been set forth. We primarily should look at the future. We should be positive. It should be a positive study. If we look for trouble, by God, we're going to find trouble. If we look for help, we're going to find help. So, MTA looks good to me. Can't you just vote on it? Thank you.
Ms. Garland?
There she is again, sir. Ann Garcia Garland, 120 Outer Drive. As I mentioned in my email to you all today, there are probably 90% of the people in this town don't care how this comes out one way or the other. Probably 90% of the people in this town just want everything to be quiet. The problem is that 10% of the people in this town are deeply committed to everything that happens in the city. And this is an issue upon which those people are passionately divided. If the process is not completely transparent and as far away from the possibility of question as we can make it, then we will not have those 10% accepting whatever the outcome is. And those people tend to be our leaders, our most outspoken and involved citizens. And I want all of those people to be satisfied that the process has responded to a serious question about the city's business. You all thought this was serious enough, a question that the city council should take up its authority to investigate. That's what you are charged with in the charter. I really believe that those 10%, one half or the other, will not be satisfied with the result either way from an MTAS employee, regardless of how highly I esteem their services.
Further discussion? We'll go to the board to vote on the motion. Ms. Vaughn, if you would state your motion one more time.
Motion to require that the selected investigator be someone with no affiliation or ties to the Oak Ridge Police Department or the City of Oak Ridge.
Go to the board. Motion fails 4-3. Ms. Vaughn?
Part of the resolution involved a review of administrative policies. What I'm passing out are a selection of policies that I've accumulated from a number of people who decided to provide input on these particular policies. I would ask that we submit these specific policies to the investigator for inclusion in their investigation. And that is my motion.
Ms. Vaughn has moved that the administrative policies that she has provided to us be included in the investigation. Is there a second?
I should note, there's no specific allegations or ties to anyone in particular. This is just a selection of various policies. I believe we have an extremely large manual from the police department that might be too cumbersome, so I've tried to narrow that focus down.
Right, Ms. Vaughn has made the motion. Is there a second? For purposes of discussion and questions, Ms. Vaughn, I'm going to second the motion. Ms. Vaughn, I'd like to seek clarification on your motion as to whether or not it is your intention to limit the review of administrative policies to just the ones that you have passed out to us, or whether it is to have these specific ones included in the review.
It is not to limit it whatsoever. It is to
Anyway.
ensure that these are included.
Thank you. Ms. Smith?
I'd like to offer an amendment to this motion, specifically to require that all policies of the Oak Ridge Police Department and of the City of Oak Ridge regarding personnel be provided to the selected investigator review or whatever they are, to be considered in their review.
Is that in lieu of this?
That's an
Just a
amendment.
second, just a second. All right. Ms. Smith has moved that all administrative policies of the police department be included in the review. Mr. Council, did I hear you second that motion?
Yes, you did.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Mr. Hensley, you have the floor for purposes of asking your question.
Yeah, and I want to ask Ms. Smith and Mr. Callison, is this in lieu of this pile of paper that none of us have seen yet? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Hope?
I think it's important that we review all policies and procedures. That was part of our original resolution. The police department has to be a very structured entity within the city of Oak Ridge and what we are doing. And that structure is what the police officers, the men and women of the whole police force rely on every day. So it's vitally important that we make sure that the structure in which they operate, a very high stress environment, is done appropriately so that no matter if you've got an 18-year veteran or a 1-year rookie on the beat out there, that they have that structure, they understand their structure, their policies, procedures, whether they're on beat shift, day shift, whatever shift they're coming off or on, that everybody within that organization understands the policies and has the structure in which to lean against to make sure their job is done correctly every time. We don't want a mistake within the police department. There are going to be mistakes that are going to happen, but we have the right policies in place and a good structure in which they can operate and do their business.
Ms. Ball?
Yes, I'd like to see, make a point of clarification or ask Ms. Smith to clarify the introduction of the specific policies that I brought originally. The title of the document was to be reviewed for ORPD administrative, in parentheses, leadership compliance. Our resolution states review of administrative policies. Are you asking that the investigators simply familiarize themselves with the policies or investigate compliance with the policies?
I'm sorry, Ms. Smith.
No, I'm asking that the entire set of policies should be provided to the reviewer, investigator for their consideration during their review. I'm not asking them to do anything specific with them. The policies are one of the subjects that we want them to review, and policies are related to all the matters that they may be dealing with when they conduct their discussions with police personnel.
Mr. Hensley?
Yes, I think that review of the policies was exactly what's called for in the resolution. And so I agree completely with Ms. Smith's amendment that review of the policy should be part of whoever the reviewer is.
Ms. Ball?
Yes, that brings to mind, since we're talking about review versus investigation, the resolution itself invoked a section of the charter by resolution to make investigations into the affairs of the city and the conduct of the city department. Offices, boards, commissions, committees, and agencies for said purpose may subpoena witnesses, administer oaths, take testimony, and require the production of evidence. If we are simply handing policies over for review, then it would seem that this entire process leans more towards an actual review, which is just a very benign methodology for seeking truth in everything that has brought us to this point today. I noticed that Mr. Watson graciously attempted to include some of the transcribed statements from our meeting in which we produced this resolution, but he neglected to include the statements from the point of Mr. Callison's resolution on. And I'd like to remind Mr. Callison and the rest of council, his statements, if we aren't carrying forward with an investigation, his statements to the public were very misleading. I'll quote him in
Ms. Vaughn, now let's stay on the amendment, and the amendment is to include all of the policies and procedures of the administrative policies and procedures of the police department to be included in the review, the investigation.
Is it a review or an investigation?
That's the motion, that's the amendment that's on the floor.
Could you tell me if we're talking about a review or an investigation?
I will go back and refer to the resolution that specifically states that City Council desires to hire an independent third party to review the turnover rate, morale, and administrative policies in the Oak Ridge Police Department. So based on the resolution that we adopted, the language is review.
And that's my point. The paragraph above that invokes investigative authority, and in the meeting, Mr. Callison states, we think that that's a very broad term that allows an investigator, an independent investigator, to look into the issues that might be present. We're misleading the public if we're going down a path of review versus investigation. This entire process, the most important thing in this process is not about how little or how much time it takes. It is not about how much it may or may not cost. We've not even gotten to that part of the discussion yet. It's not about how positive or negative this may look on our city. This is about doing the right thing. This is about instilling public trust, instilling public confidence in the people who we entrust with public safety. Nothing we've done so far this evening aligns. Our words and our deeds do not align with what we committed to do back in February.
Well, Ms. Vaughn, we will simply have to disagree on that issue. You're entitled to your opinion. I simply disagree with you respectfully. Mr. Hensley.
I was going to repeat what you just said.
All right, is there any further discussion on the amendment to include all administrative policies in the police department in the review? Let's go to the board. The amendment is adopted, 5 votes yes, 1 abstention, and 1